Hi friends, let's take a look at Ethereum, shall we? Ethereum versus the US dollar, because that is what we be trading these days, right? And let's just take a look at it. So we've got this parallel channel that I was drawing recently, and while it's not, the perfect parallel channel as we discussed it, ad nauseum in the past, we're still structured within this thing. Now I've got it on the 1 hour time frame. It's obviously a very low time frame, but I would like to see, as we've seen just here at $380, that kind of continuing this on the way, and the story continuing to build towards the top side, looking at 385 and stuff like that along the way, up the way, to stay within this overall. If we do move outside of it, then of course I'm going to be looking at this 144 moving average here on the 1 hour time frame. If I'm still looking at the 1 hour time frame at the time, of course. Looking here at the 4 hour time frame, we can see that we're outside of this at the minute. I'm looking towards the 21 EMA on this thing at 378 and saying, are we going to stay above that area? If movement's below that, then I'd be tempted to say that we could be back in for another visit down towards those mid 300s again, losing a little bit of the sheen off the top of our illustrious rise up. But of course, if we start to take out that 395 area again and move towards the 407 area again, then of course things are looking pretty rosy in that respect. Now we can actually straddle the price action that we've got here with a couple of lines and just kind of say, are we in the midst of some sort of triangular shape of some sort? Take it just from here and just say, look, we're right here. If we're becoming overextended, a move's got to happen soon. I'd be aware of that sort of thing as a possibility. That's a little bit sort of a bit much, but we are quite far into any sort of like consolidation from a low time frame perspective, just looking at this here before we move one way or the other. So it could be interesting to see over the next wee while. At the minute we've got a high there which came in without any divergence. No, it was a little bit bearishly divergent, was it? Such a mess. No, it wasn't bearish divergence there on the RSI. Stochastics was fine as well. DMI looks to have divergence on it. Right, must be right here, 23, 24. So coming on the way down the way. If this cascades down, we see the negative overtaking the positive and moving towards the top side there, with more strength of the negative strength, and the ADX then at that point turning around and picking back up the way again, then I'd be a little bit sort of more nervous about the price action. Momentum towards the downside, you could say perhaps is growing when you see these things happening, pardon me. But overall, it's been a very, very, very positive story along the way. Looking up at the 24-hour time frame, you can also see that the latest high came in without any divergence really on there, and we're just in this little phase that we're at the minute. It's a little bit even unfair to use this parallel channel on the thing really overall, and movements in terms of closes above the 387 price point that we're at the minute in terms of the 24-hour time frames, closes up at 390s and 400s and stuff like that, would be sort of the slight sort of fairly weak sort of, but still follow through from what we've had before. If we look at candles like this at 275 up to 281, you're talking about less than $10 move, but it was enough of a follow through to kind of lead on from the follow through before. That was 265 up to 275, so $10, $6. So it doesn't need to be huge, just in terms of like continuing to go towards the top side. And if we do, then it would have to be a little bit of a warning sign for us, in the sense that we've come up very, very high in the stochastics. We're very, very high. If I just scroll to the left, keeping my mouse in exactly the same place, you can see that we're up here, and what is considered in terms of the BitMEX chart, we're up here now after all this is our all-time high type area before the stochastics turn around, resulting normally in a pullback in the price. So be a little bit of word of caution out to people on that front. How about we do the same thing over here on the RSI and just look back to the left and see the crosshair, the serrated line of my mouse thing coming in here and touching off that previous high, going back left the way, left, and you can see that the RSI is also coming at all-time highs. So if I saw a pullback here, would it be a total surprise? No, I wouldn't. In which case, what areas am I looking for in order to stay above and that to have this positive sort of price action towards the top side? I'm looking at 370.95 as the first port of call. If I am going to be looking at a retracement down the way, having drawn this in using the wick up here towards the top side. Now, if I were to modify that and have it down here with using the bodies, and that drops this targets down towards that 350 area. But if I'm going to sort of play this sort of more aggressively, then you can use that 350s area as potentially your first profit taking target, with 340 being the 382. The $316 point there is the 50% retrace line, and the golden pocket comes in there at 286, 292, all of which are a possibility. We have somebody in the Discord at the minute calling for 275. If I look over to the left, then you can see this 236 Fibonacci retracement. It was drawn in before, in the past. I guess this is a zombie one. it comes in at around about that area. But what else is there in that area? If I just look here, the previous highs in at 287, so that's not too much of a shock. Yeah, this is drawn in from down here up to here. So the 236 on this comes in at 340, or 340 where the 382 is. The 382 on this one's 291, the 50% is 250, and the golden pocket takes us all the way down to the Hey Pal line that we had for so long on there at $200 kind of area. So, that's all the very negative story. But let's just dive over real quick before we wrap up here to take a look at the positive side of things. Just wanted to point out to people there's a couple of things that's happened at once, or whatever, that in this retracement down the way, we've come back up and we've invalidated this Fibonacci retracement so far, or let it remain pre-valid, right? Not valid yet. And where have we seen the wicks coming in and out on this? If you just look at the price action, it's fairly compelling to look at this and see how this all lines up. And what does it line up with? Well, not only this 236 here that we have at 390, we've been talking about in terms of being a target for the last wee while on the charts there. So this has given us an easy enough area to be managing our risk around when it comes to trading this thing. And movements above there, just in terms of being real brief about things, could move up, of course, to these three targets. Let's call it 585. 750 and 900 to 950. Those sort of three targets you could be looking at if we move up the way. Now that's a little bit, that's a little bit woo, a little bit way, a little bit dodgy, but that is it, and if we move up the way, then we could be looking at those things. So that's something to be aware of. But we're right here at this area. I'm offering up very easy to manage risk in terms of shorts and very easy to manage risk in terms of longs. In terms of managing your risk and looking at this as a precipice beforehand, then cool. There's a guy as well, shout out to Fez, new member in the Discord, who's asking, should they invest in I think it was, by the way, I hope I got you right there. I think it was yourself that was asking, would it be good to invest in Ethereum right now or to wait until later? And that's a hard question to answer at any given time. But there's, but there was, it was much easier to answer that question in the past, as we did with Sofietta. Shout out to Sofietta, by the way. Hope you enjoyed getting in on your reduced price Ethereum. So the question was that, and he, I think he asked it when it was up there, higher, or maybe at the prices it is now. Just looking down the way, you can see that we have, if I go down to the 4-hour time frame, you can see that we've had pullbacks down to the 380s and where the 21 EMA is, for instance, and things like that recently. And that offers you up at least a better buying opportunity than just whatever the price happens to be when you open up your computer in terms of investing in this thing. But could we see a pullback? Well, I've gone through all the discussion about that at the minute. I've gone through all the ways that you would kind of think about things in terms of managing your risk. Does this volume here that was very big at this point in time when, we had rejections in a couple of different ways of looking at it. Depends on your perspective around this particular candle, but it's an interesting one. And when you add these two together, how, this engulfing nature of this one, despite the rejection and on it, and then the follow through on this candle, and then subsequently we've only come back up as high as this sort of 236 without really pushing above it, etc., etc. Maybe you could look at this and say that we're due some sort of pullback, and where could that take us down to? And just one easy way of answering it could be that we could go down to the 337 point, in which case you're looking at a 20% discount in the price that you're paying. So, so it's a toughie. But if the prices skyrocket from here, it's not like we haven't spoken about it for everybody else in the run up. But at the same time, we've got these manageable risk trade areas for us to look at. If we look down towards 1 hour, we've seen anything negative, negative, looking for negativity here, specifically in terms of confirmation bias. Well, you've got this rise up here, which is like clearly bearishly divergent in this point, and we haven't had any real follow through from that in terms of stochastics. And the RSI as well, might as well just call it as it is, kind of ever so slightly divergent, right? No, it's not. It's kind of just convergent with the price action still. Oh yeah, there we go, a bit more divergence on the MACD. We've not had any follow through from that yet. Are we going to see any? If we take out this wick down, well, that's a bit low in terms of the price, isn't it? You can see that there's not a great deal, there's just not, we've not spent a long time here really, in the grand scheme of things, sorry. Go back up. Not spent a great deal of time at this particular price point in this grand scheme of things. It kind of moves up and down and away from these areas, ding dong, way up above that at the minute. There's doesn't spend a lot of time there. It's not like one of these other zones where you've had a degree of sideways during it. So it's a tough time to answer that question, right? Anyway, I think that we're going to have to leave it at that for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Rocky Outcrop is my name-o. You can see me here on youtube.com/Rocky Outcrop. Share that with your friends. I'm sure they'll love it. They'll be really grateful, really, really grateful. And I tell you, in terms of me being grateful, I'm really grateful to everybody who hits that subscribe button. I'm really grateful to everybody who tunes in and watches the episodes actually as a start. Really, really am. But if you also hit that subscribe button, then you're brilliant, And if you want to hit the join button too and actually sort of, send some value back the way, then great. I just really hope that you're getting value from these episodes. And if you are, then you kind of show that back to me by hitting the subscribe button and the like button and stuff like that. Then that would be fan-dabby-dozy, because I put my heart and soul into them. Put my wee soul into these wee episodes. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Catch you next time.